the stream marker button on both YouTube and Twitch. And then last but not least, we hit this one. All right, here we go. So like I said, I have not had the chance to do this yet. I also wasn't sure about Univision's takedown policy. I've dealt with certain networks, but not others, and I didn't want to risk getting a takedown or worse from a network. So I'm gonna watch it through. This is Jesse Dolomore. I think we've watched him once before. You want to give him a follow. I don't know much about him, but he's had the story before that I'm looking for. So this is the one that I'm looking for. Being blasted with questions at a Univision town hall. So like Trump, one of the things that Trump has going for him is that certain constituencies which had been mostly against him in the past. This being this being like the I hate to say like the black vote and the Hispanic vote. That sounds like it's weird. But those demographics, if you looked at those votes alone, were very much against Trump. We're very much in the favor of the Democrat. And this year, they're not as in favor of Kamala Harris as they were in Joe Biden in 2020 or Hillary Clinton in 2016. And you'll hear a lot of like the Steve Kornackis of the world, a lot of the pollster guys on the networks talk about this. You almost get the feeling like, oh yeah, black people really like Donald Trump. They are mostly voting for Donald Trump. That's not true. Like we're still talking about Trump receiving something like a 60-40 split in terms of the Hispanic vote and a, I don't know, 80-20 split in terms of the black vote. So you're talking about constituencies which are reliably voting for Democrats, but less in less total numbers, right? Because if you go back to 2016, Donald Trump was getting like 8% of the votes from black voters, right? And now it's more like 20%. So they're like, whoa, he doubled his numbers, and it makes it sound more like it makes it sound. In fact, it borders in what I'm afraid of. And what I see that in the tea leaves is, a potential loss by Kamala Harris, which is, I gotta admit it to you, a possibility, a very distinct possibility, being blamed on these constituencies, not because they don't support her, because they by and large do, but because they don't support her as unambiguously as they did in the past, right? And you've seen precedent for this before. If you look at the California Proposition 8, the anti-marriage equality initiative, was largely blamed on black voters in California, and never any attention paid to the millions of white voters that voted for it too. So yeah, there's a tendency with these dissections of the vote into different demographics to then turn and blame blame minorities for blame like marginalized people for a left candidate's failure, and I think it's really gross. So yeah, if Kamala Harris loses, it's Kamala Harris's fault. All right, it's the Democratic Party's fault. It's Joe Biden's fault. It's not. You can't be like, it's the black voters that didn't. That's I don't want to hear that. All right, but let's look at the Univision town hall, which Trump was at a little while ago. Got some questions and couldn't really handle them.
Don't get out much. So Donald Trump Univision held another town hall, this time for Donald Trump. This time, oddly enough, there were no conspiracy theories being spread about Donald Trump reading from a teleprompter like there were with Kamala Harris, even though the same teleprompter was in the same spot, in the same studio, and no one's claiming he read from a teleprompter. Weird how the conspiracies only apply to Democratic candidates.
There's a surprisingly, shockingly low bar for Donald Trump. His flub ups, his fuck ups, his just disastrous moments are like expected, and it's almost like because of that, they disappear into the ether. We had Trump's appearance at the National Association of Black Journalists, which is where, you know, he started saying black jobs. Said a lot of other things too that were just really, I can't even remember them. They're out of my mind, out of my sight too, and nobody ever talks about them. Even though at the time it was a pretty big deal, and these things, like, taken by themselves, they're pretty shocking. And another candidate, especially a Democratic candidate, would have been sunk by saying these kind of things. The one that comes to mind, the one that I cannot forget, is when he compared his crowd size on January 6th to the crowd size of Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech back in the 60s, right? And he said, I had a bigger crowd. You know, mine was better. Mine was bigger. January 6th, better than the I Have a Dream speech, right? Just a fucking wild thing to say, right? The fact that Donald Trump did Jan 6 in the first place is wild. The fact that he's able to run for president after that is also wild. But the fact that he's bragging about it and dunking on Martin Luther King Jr. is just the gravy on top of it all. But yeah, like I said, held to a different standard.
And Kamala Harris specifically. Weird. But there's two moments I want to play for you. One is a question from a Republican, just a no longer registered Republican. That's how he identifies himself. He says, I'm a Republican that's no longer registered. And he asks about Donald Trump, I want to give you an opportunity to win my vote back. And ultimately, the question is, what the happened with January 6th? Why did you not intervene? Why did you not do something? And Donald Trump, in true Donald Trump fashion, just gives a word salad nonsense answer. Really is a self-indictment of his love of himself, his love of power, his love of influence, and having zero love or affection or loyalty or duty to country. Watch this first moment, and then we're going to move on to another one that is more stark than this, and really kind of a campaign ender in my mind.
I am a Republican, no longer registered though. I want to give you the opportunity to try to win back my vote. Okay. Your, let me say, action and maybe inaction during your presidency and the last few years sort of, you know, was a little disturbing to me. You know, what happened during January 6th and the fact that, you know, you waited so long to take action while your supporters were attacking the Capitol. Coronavirus, I thought the public was misled during coronavirus, and that many more lives could have been saved if we would have been informed better.
So yeah, when people say I thought the public was misled during coronavirus, you don't really know what he's talking about. You don't really know which side of the issue he's on. But when he says many more lives could have been saved, right, rather than something like the children's education was disrupted, or the evil vaccines, you know, something like that, right? Or like, you know, information about the you know, information was suppressed or something like that, right? Then you got an anti-vaxxer. But it doesn't sound like that's what this guy is saying. He's saying more lives could have been saved. So yeah, that's a proper criticism of Trump's mishandling of the greatest public health nightmare of our century.
And also people in your administration who don't support you. I'm curious how people so close to you and your administration.
So as far as people in his administration not supporting him, we've got a few more generals today talking about Trump's admiration. And I'm not fucking bullshitting you. I'm not making this up. I don't have Trump derangement syndrome before anybody fucking gets on that. Literally, dude is idolizing Adolf Hitler. Talking about that to his generals, wishing that he had generals more like Hitler's generals, right? The multiple generals working under Trump have said this now, right? And again, like I said, the bar is in fucking hell. This guy is not held to any kind of standard. He's graded by a massive curve. If anybody else was like, yo, you know, Hitler's XYZ was kind of cool, like, you know, we should be more like that, their shit would be over. they would be donezo. They would be donezo. But because Donald Trump is sleeping on a bed of nails in terms of scandals, there's so many scandals, and there's no way for the media to like concentrate. There's none of them like stand out. They're all horrible. All the things he said, all the things he's done are horrible, right? And so it just kind of all blends together, and he's never held to account for it.
Administration no longer want to support you, so why would I want to support you? If you would answer these.
Omega Star says COVID hit communities of color hard. One of my friends had 2 of her friends die in a week of COVID.
Questions for me, I would really appreciate it and give you the opportunity. There's, your own vice president doesn't want to support you now.
Thank you, Ramiro.
So the people that don't support a very small portion, we have a tremendous, about 97% of the people in the administration support me. But because it's me, somebody doesn't support, they get a little publicity.
I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true. Like, look, for most presidents, I'd say, yeah, that's probably true, right? They've got a few detractors, maybe even some disgruntled people from their cabinet, from their administration. So some people who have differences of opinions, right? 97% would be a pretty average rate. That's not Trump's rate. There's an uncanny number of people who worked with Donald Trump who now are raising red flags and blowing the whistle about what it's like to work on the inside, what this guy's actually like to work with, and how dangerous he would be to reelect. I think, I almost feel like, does he have 50% of his, cabinet still approving of him? Because it's one thing to be like in abstract of like, I am a Republican, I have conservative values, Donald Trump is the standard bearer, and while I might not support every single, thing he says or does, I by and large support things like, him putting a conservative Supreme Court into place to take down Roe versus Wade, right? Most Republicans are anti-abortion, so they like that sort of thing, right? That's what you'd expect, but you don't really have it. I'm not sure if this guy has the support of 50% of his administration, administration officials.
The vice president, I disagree with him on what he did. I totally disagreed with him on what he did. Very importantly, you had hundreds of thousands of people.
He means what he didn't do, which was steal the election for him.
Come to Washington. They didn't come because of me. They came because of the election. They thought the election was a rigged election, and that's why they came. Some of those people went down.
I'm sorry, I feel like he's gaslighting us here. They didn't come because of me. Wasn't there like some sort of an invitation from Trump? Wasn't there a literal call to action where Trump, an email or something like that? I'll have to look it up.
Capital. I said peacefully and patriotically. Nothing done wrong at all. Nothing done wrong. And action was taken, strong action. Ashley Babbitt was killed. Nobody was killed. There were no guns down there. We didn't have guns. The others had guns, but we didn't have.
So now, if you've listened to Trump, you know how to decode what he's saying. But to the average person, nobody died there. Ashley Babbitt died there. That's a contradiction. That's a contradiction. I think what he's trying to say is that no police officers passed away at the site, right? One of them passed away a day later after being beaten. Some of them, unalived themselves later, from the trauma of that day. But that's what he's trying to say. That's at least I think. See, I gotta have my Trump decoder ring ready to decode his word salad, because if you actually take him, like if you try to follow him word by word, it does not make sense.
When I say we, these are people that walk down. This was a tiny percentage of the overall, which nobody sees and nobody shows. But that was a day of love from the standpoint of the millions. It's like hundreds of thousands.
Look at that. Look at that. Look at that reaction. That was a day of love. Do you know how deep you have to have MAGA down your throat in order to be like, oh, yes, that was a day of love. Yes, clearly, right? Do you know what percentage of the population fucking believes that? I'm not sure even, like, I'm sure even a lot of MAGA doesn't believe that.
Could have been the largest group I've ever.
It was a day of love. The largest group. I'm waiting for him to say it was bigger than Martin Luther King's speech.
Before.
Because he has said, he's literally said that. He literally flexed his Jan 6 crowd size on Martin Luther King. Literally said that, you know, that I had a dream speech, supposed to be something special. Yeah, I had more people. I had more people at January 6th. What now, Martin Luther King? What now? Fucking mogged, MLK. Fucking mogged.
Asked me to speak. I went and I spoke, and I used the term peacefully and patriotically. If you look at the Democrats, what they say, you look at Maxine Waters and you look at Hillary.
All right, let's get a little reality in here.
And they don't put that on. They only put Republicans on, but they couldn't get me because.
All right, we'll come back to this in just a second. Let's have a little reality here. Donald Trump's will be wild tweet drew rioters to the Capitol on Jan 6th. He said that they didn't come because of me. Well, let's roll it back. What exactly?
People come to Washington. They didn't come because of me. They came because of the election. They thought
They came because of the election. Okay. Donald J. Trump. Peter Navarro released a 36-page report alleging election fraud, more than sufficient to swing the victory for Trump. That guy went to jail, right? Peter Navarro. A great report by Peter. Statistically impossible to have lost the 2020 election. Big protest. All right. So, claim by Donald Trump. They didn't come to DC for me. They came because of the election. Fact, Donald Trump tweets out, big protest in DC on January 6th. Be there, will be wild. What do you think he meant by that? What do you think he meant by that? Like, what else could he possibly have meant by that? Shortly after the 6-hour Oval Office meeting described by the White House as unhinged, Donald Trump sent a tweet that would galvanize his followers, unleash a political firestorm, and change the course of history of our history as a country, said Jamie Raskin. Statistically impossible to have lost the 2020 election, Trump tweeted, even after he had heard from many of his top political and legal advisors that he had, in fact, lost. Big protest on January 6th, he wrote, referring to the day that Congress set to formally certify Joe Biden's victory in the Electoral College. Be there, will be wild. Will be wild. I wonder what he meant by that.
Indeed, many of Trump's followers took to social media to declare that they were ready to answer Trump's call. One user asked, is the 6th D-Day? Is that why Trump wants everyone there?
Because it was so peaceful up
Another
here,
asserted,
but now there are freaking
Trump
communists
just told us all to
invading
come
radicals.
armed. Fucking A, this is happening.
So whatever he thinks he said,
It was so peaceful up here, but now there are freaking communists invading radicals.
this is how it was received. Right? Now, he didn't literally say, come armed, right? But he said, you know, be there, will be wild. And this is how his supporters interpreted it.
A third took it even further. It will be wild means we need volunteers for the firing squad. Jim Watkins, the owner of 8kun, the fringe online forum that was birthplace of the QAnon extremist movement, confirmed the importance of Trump's tweet.
Why did you first decide to go to DC for January 6th?
When the President of the United States announced that he was going to have a rally, then I bought ticket and went.
Watkins was at the Capitol on January 6th. Some who have since been
Anyway, I just wanted to fact check, because this guy doesn't get fact checked nearly enough. But there you go in real time, right? There's his claim. Again, let's listen to what his answer.
the people in the administration support me. But because it's me, somebody doesn't support, they get.
To these questions from me, I would really appreciate it and give you the opportunity. There's, you know, you don't.
7% of the people in the administration.
No.
Thank you, Ramiro.
So the people that don't support are very small.
Appreciate it and give you the opportunity to you.
Right.
Happened during January 6th. In your presidency.
Is more.
Wait, where is this again? I'm sorry, I lost my place.
Don't these questions from me. I would.
Very small portion. We have a tremendous, about 97% of the people in the administration support me. But because it's me, somebody
Where'd you pull that statistic, Donald Trump? And why does it smell like ass?
doesn't support, they get a little publicity. The vice president, I disagree with him on what he did. I totally disagreed with him on what he did. Very importantly, you had hundreds of thousands of people come to Washington. They didn't come because of me. They came because of the election. They thought the election was a...
They didn't come because of me. And compare that to Donald Trump's tweet. Big protest in D.C. on January 6th. Be there, will be wild. This guy just straight up lies, and he does it all the time. And the reason that this might not be as impactful is because you've probably seen it before. And if you're right-wing, you have somehow just, like, justified it. Like, oh no, but he's lying in service of a greater truth. It's a directional truth, right? Bullshit. He's conning you. Because he's a con man. And that's what he's done his whole fucking life.
A rigged election, and that's why they came. Some of those people went down to the Capitol. I said peacefully and patriotically, nothing done wrong at all, nothing done wrong.
Will be wild, nothing done wrong.
And action was taken, strong action. Ashley Babbitt was killed. Nobody was killed. There were no guns.
Did you see that woman? Like, what? See, like, this is the thing. Normal people, I mean, like, Trump sycophants, like, they decode that. Oh, yeah, that's what he means. Like, he means that no cops were killed, but Ashley Babbitt was killed, right? But for a normal person like her, look at this reaction here.
Because it was so peaceful up here, but now there are freaking communist invading radicals.
By the way, thank you for following me from Shorts Chat. I want you to know that we're about to cross the threshold of 10,000 subs. And so if you sub to me in the near future, like in the next minute or so, you might be number 10,000. I don't know. I think that's kind of cool. Let's just watch her reaction again.
Was killed. There were no guns.
Yeah.
Down there.
No, that doesn't make sense, right?
Done wrong.
What he said did not make sense.
And action was taken, strong action. Ashley Babbitt was killed. Nobody was killed.
Excuse me? Excuse me, she says?
There were no guns down there. We didn't have guns.
There were guns?
The others had guns.
There's a reason that he told the Secret Service not to put his supporters through the magnometer. Because he knew those fuckers were armed. And he wanted them armed.
Guns, but we didn't have guns. And what I said...
And he wanted to go down to the fucking Capitol. What do you think would have happened if Donald Trump had gotten his way and been able to go down to the Capitol along with his supporters? What do you think that outcome would have been? What do you think he had in mind? Right? The Secret Service stopped him from doing it. They said, we cannot protect you down there, sir.
Say we, these are...
And he said, these are my people. I don't need protection from them.
People that walked down. This was a tiny percentage of the overall, which nobody sees and nobody shows. But that was a day of love from the standpoint of...
Again, look at these reactions. Look at these reactions. Look at how normal people react to January 6th being described as a day of love.
Millions, it's like hundreds of thousands. It could have been the largest group I've ever spoken before. They asked me to speak. I went.
They asked you to speak. You made a tweet asking them to come. This guy is just straight up lying. And he's doing it boldly because he gets away with lying. He's gotten away with lying for his whole fucking life, right? He's acclimated to lying and not having any fucking consequences because the rich in our country rarely have any consequences.
And I spoke, and I used the term peacefully and patriotically. If you look at the Democrats, what they say, you look at Maxine Waters, and you look at Hillary Clinton, and you look at what they say, and they don't put that on. They only put Republicans on. But they couldn't get me because of the fact that I said everything's got to be...
They couldn't get me sounds like the words of a criminal. They couldn't get me on the charges. I beat the rap. This sounds like the words of the criminal, and it is. But it's not just any criminal. It's the whitest of white-collar criminal. It's the softest of softest hands criminal. It is a criminal that has never had to, scrap to enforce his will on people.
Peaceful and
he's been allowed to take shit from people by virtue of his wealth and his status in society. Donald Trump is the greatest living argument against capitalism that I have ever seen. Just him, the man in himself.
Patriotic. And we'll see how it all works out. But I think that we're right now in another election. All I want is honest elections. I'm willing to take any chance. I want honest election.
Omega Star, thank you for the 200 bits. 10K subs. Yeah, we're really close to that. Thank you for the donation.
I love the figures that he throws around about how many people are supporting him. Well, actually, it's like 97%. It's like 427% of my cabinet is still supporting me. Look, when the people...
Look, I'm sorry, you're giving him a Jersey accent that would make him much cool. If he actually had that accent, he'd be cooler.
Who knew him the best.
He does not, in fact, have a Jersey accent. The man's from New York.
We're not talking about low-level staffers who had an office, 55 doors away in the old executive office building adjacent to the White House. We're not talking about those people, the MAGA people who are just championing
We got it?
a bit for a chance
Are we there?
to be in another administration.
Are we 10K?
We're talking about people who worked with Donald Trump, who had meetings with almost daily in the Oval Office with the President of the United States. We're talking about Donald Trump's former 4-star Marine Corps General John Kelly, Chief of Staff.
We are.
Before that, the Secretary of Homeland.
We're 10K.
Him. He says Donald Trump not fit to be in office. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mark Milley, again, 4-star general, served for decades. Selfless.
So yeah, and I heard people say when the first one of these generals, spoke out, I heard people say, well, that's hearsay. That's just one 4-star general that said he admired Hitler, that said he made fun of, American troops that had died, right? It's hearsay. It's a rumor, right? Now there's two. I'm not a big fan of the military-industrial complex. I'm not a big fan of generals. Davy Star, thank you for the super chat. Davy Star says congratulations. Yes, we did it. Hey, congratulations to you, chat. We did it together. That's amazing. We're at 5 digits now. I don't know. It might not sound like much if you're used to watching channels that have hundreds of thousands or millions of subs, but it's a lot for us. It means a lot.
Sacrificing for his country as an army soldier. He says Donald Trump, fascist to his core. And that is separate and apart from the fact that several of his secretaries of state, his own vice president doesn't want him in office again, knows he's a danger, a clear and present danger. And that, above and beyond, is separate and apart from the fact that we witnessed what took place at the insurrection. We watched Donald Trump dispatched an armed, frothing, violent mob hell-bent to overthrow the United States government, to reinsert Donald Trump extra democratically. I saw a comment the other day, or maybe it was in an email. Someone says, well, you should stop saying extra democratically because people are going to think it means like extra. It's democratic, but it's extra.
It's very, very democratic. The most democratic of all times.
Democratic. I think my audience is smart enough to know what extra constitutional is, what extra democratic.
Hey, since he's such a fan of the Fuhrer, let's call it uber democratically. How about that? Does that one fit? Hey, if the jackboot fits, right? If the brown shirt fits.
It's outside of the framework of democracy, of the Constitution, of the justice system. And that is exactly what Donald Trump did. Bananas. The second thing I want to show you is a question from a farmer who's asking a very pointed, very, very logical question that needs an answer given, which is if, here's the deal. You're going to see him speak it in Spanish and then it's interpreted. But ultimately, this is the question. If you deport these people, who would do that job and what price would we pay for food? He's talking about...
That's a good question.
Seasonal agricultural workers.
So look, when Trump talks about immigration, he talks about Hannibal Lecter, right? He talks about prisons being emptied out and these people being encouraged to come into the U.S. He talks about crime. He talks about gangs. He talks about drugs. He doesn't talk about food, right? Which, if you're an undocumented person in the United States and you've come here to earn money to send back to your home because shit's kind of fucked up there and you can't earn money there, a lot of times the job you take is an agricultural job. A lot of times the job that you take is a job harvesting food. Food for who? Food for you. Food for me. The food that Americans eat is to a large degree harvested by undocumented workers. Now, there's a lot wrong with that in that, there should be a pathway to citizenship for these people, right? There's obviously a need for agricultural workers. There's obviously a need, let's go, say you don't like vegetables. So say you're on the paleo diet. You like meat? You like meat? Okay, well, thank an undocumented person too, because most likely, your meat has been processed by somebody that is not documented and who is underpaid and kind of like, slips through the cracks of regulation to the point where, they're not necessarily, sometimes their pay is stolen from them. Sometimes they are, they're promises that are made to them by their employers are not kept. And if they complain, who are they going to complain to? They try to start a union, their boss will call immigration on them, right? So they're in a very vulnerable situation. They're massively exploited, but they are feeding America. And that's what we never talk about when immigration comes up. We talk about bullshit like Hannibal fucking Lecter. Wait, Hannibal Lecter? Is that his name? I was like Hannibal Lecter. I think it's Lecter, Chad. It's a little bit before my time, but I...
Migrant workers doing work that is inarguably...
I think Hannibal Lecter was in Ghostbusters. Hannibal Lecter is who I mean.
Literal back-breaking work that Americans largely, there isn't a population sufficient in this country that's willing to do that work. Those people don't get paid enough as it is. That's a problem in and of itself. We're not going to address that today. But if Donald Trump does this...
It's sad. We're not going to address that today. We're not going to address that any day. So, I mean, look, I'm critical... I mean, as you can tell, of MAGA. I'm critical of conservatives, but I'm also critical of liberals. And here's a problem with liberals. You will get this issue brought up and acknowledged when it is in service of defeating Donald Trump. And look, I don't want Donald Trump to be elected either, right? So I kind of understand that. I just wish that some of these people would have more care and compassion. I mean, look at what's happened with the issue of immigration. Immigration as an issue has shown the utter depravity of both parties. It's shown the depravity of the Democratic Party in the sense that the Democratic Party used to stand for a pathway to citizenship. It used to stand for DACA, right? And when it became convenient or inconvenient to uphold those beliefs, the Democratic Party caved into Donald Trump. What do I mean by that? I mean, there was a bill in the House sponsored by Republicans that they were trying to pass in order to get it shot down by the Senate or vetoed by the president. What does that do? That means that the Republicans can say, we want to get tough on immigration. The Democrats won't let us. Vote for us. Vote the Democrats out. Vote us in, right? It's an issue. It's an election issue, right? And Trump was behind it. He was like, yeah, go ahead and do that. Pass that bill. Come on, Joe. Why won't you sign it? Joe Biden caves in to Donald Trump and says, I will sign it, Jack. I'll sign the file. Here's my pen right here. Send me that bill. I will sign it. I will get it through the Senate for you, right? The Democratic Senate. I will make sure that the Democrats vote yes on that. As soon as he does that, Donald Trump gets on the phone to Republican Congress people and says, kill that bill. You know that bill that I was telling you to pass before? I want it dead. I want it dead. And he got it dead. He got that bill killed because he didn't want the policy that he was advocating. So do you get what I'm saying? Democrats are scumbags for caving in on that issue, for not supporting, important parts of their constituency that are against that kind of shit. Republicans are scumbags for saying that this is the policy that they want And then when it's served up to them on a silver platter, they say no, because that might help Joe Biden out in the election. They don't care about policy. They clearly care about politics. This is what's wrong with our country. And I'm indicting both parties in this.
This mass deportation thing, it's only going to harm the people he's claiming to want to protect out of some vision of an ethno-state, of racism, of white supremacy. That's what it's driven by, and it will not just drive white supremacy, it'll drive up the price of groceries. Watch this.
He trabajado toda mi vida con estas manos, agachado por horas, piscando fresa, cortando brócoli.
Oh my God, amazing point, Davy Cliff. I think they would have an easier time winning elections if they were genuine with their beliefs. You can win and be right. Yeah. They keep on, the Democrats tend to portray, that there's a policy that is moral, that there's a policy that we want, and then there's the policy that's pragmatic. And right, that would be if you really pin down the Biden administration or the Harris campaign on that issue, right? And you were like, really, what's with this? Because you didn't support this before. This is what they tell you. It's more important for us to win so we can help more people. But in doing so, you're giving up, what you know is right.
Good evening, President Trump. For many years, I have worked with these hands, hunched over, picking strawberries and cutting broccoli.
Este duro trabajo es realizado en su mayoría por gente indocumentada.
This tough job is mainly done by undocumented people.
That is realness versus fakeness in this in this side by side. Right? Somebody who has done a tough job for probably little pay that literally puts food in the bellies of Americans, that allows us to eat. And on the right side, we see a man who acts very tough, but has very soft hands, because he's never done a single thing in his life. He is part of the parasitic capitalist class that exploits people like the man on the left.
Si usted deporta a esta gente, ¿quién haría ese trabajo y qué precio pagaríamos por la comida?
If you deport to these people, who would do that job and what price would we pay for food?
Good question. How is he going to answer this one? Some of you may know how he's going to answer this one.
Please. Finished, yes?
Yes.
So the problem we have is we had people coming in under my administration, and they were coming in legally. They were coming in through a system that we had, which was great, because I'm the best thing that ever happened to farmers. You know that. I was great. Farmers are doing very badly right now, very, very badly under this administration.
We're going to change the subject. We're going to dodge, we're going to weave, we're going to weasel. We're going to do the weasel, we're going to do the weave.
Under my administration, farmers did very well. We have to have a lot of people come into our country. We just want them to come in legally through a system, because they've released hundreds of thousands of people that are murderers, drug dealers, terrorists. They're coming in totally, nobody knows who they are, where they come from. And the people that are most against it are the Hispanic people. They are totally against it, what's happened.
Sir, you are talking to Hispanic people, and you are talking to a person who has asked you a very important question. If they're not allowed in, right, and understand that it is undocumented people that are doing this job, because people with documentation do not do this job. People that do not have to work as a farm laborer do not do the job of farm labor. He has asked you the question, if it is not undocumented people, everyone's deported that does not have their papers in fucking order. Who will pick the strawberries? Who will cut the broccoli? He can't answer. He can't answer that.
The other thing I can say is that a lot of the jobs that you have and that other people have are being taken by these people that are coming in. And the African-American population and the Hispanic population in particular are losing jobs now because millions of people are coming in. So they're coming in, but they're also coming in largely and tremendous numbers.
Narwhal by Nature, thank you for the super chat. I don't know why it's not working to the shorts chat. For some reason, it's not it's not, the stream alerts aren't going off. But thank you for the very generous super sticker.
Numbers coming in out of mental institutions. They're emptying out mental institutions.
Hannibal Lecter, yes, we know. It's Hannibal Lecter.
They're emptying out insane asylums. That's a step above a mental institution. Worse, bigger problems, bigger problem people. They're emptying out jails. Their jails are being let into our country from Venezuela, but not just South America. From all over the world, they're being let in. From jails, from nobody's ever seen anything like it. The jail population throughout the world has come way down, and it's all coming into the United States of America. So we want workers, and we want them to come in, but they have to come in legally. They have to love our country. They have to love you, love our people.
AOC.
The problem with this administration is they've totally lost control. It's the worst president and the worst vice president that we've ever had in this country. What they have done to our country in terms of hurting it. Our farmers, by the way, are dying. They haven't had anything so bad in 25 years.
He doesn't understand who's doing the work, right? When he says farmers, he's probably thinking of commercial farmers. He's probably thinking of fairly wealthy people, right? He's thinking about people, you know, who own the means of production, not the people actually doing the work that this man just described, not the people picking the strawberries, not the people cutting the broccoli.
4 years ago, our farmers, including you, were making a lot of money. They were doing great. Now they're absolutely dying. We're going to turn it around. But we want people to come in, but we don't want murderers. So it was just announced that last month by the Border Patrol.
He wants people to come in. They are talking about revoking people's legal status. Far from that. Far from that. He does not. So wanting people to come in would mean we want to establish a pathway to citizenship. That was the first bill that Biden and Harris tried to pass. That bill was blocked by a Republican Congress.
That under Biden and Harris, they allowed 13,099 convicted murderers, people in jail.
So yeah, change the subject. Hannibal Lecter, right? We're going to talk about Hannibal Lecter. We're going to talk about asylums. We're going to talk about prisons. We're going to talk about anything but the very basic material question that this guy posed. If you want to feed America that is currently being fed by undocumented laborers, and you are going to deport all of these people as you have promised to do, sir, how will you eat? Who will cut your broccoli? Who will pick your strawberries? How is your fucking nation going to work? If you're you know, not like I want to hear your bullshit rationale. I want to hear about Hannibal Lecter and how he's coming to your country and how he'd like to have you and you and you for dinner, right? Not that. No, I want to talk about something real, and he can't fucking do it.
To come into our country. They released them from jail into our population. And nobody wants that. And that doesn't include the terrorists and all of the others, the gang members.
I would love this guy to get a follow-up, but I doubt he will.
MS-13 gang members and other gang members. We have to have people that are great people come into our country, but we do want them in, and I want them in even more than you do. And we're going to make it so that people can come into our country legally. Thank you. Good question. Thank you.
Ugh, get a load of this jerk off. And I want them in even more than you do. He doesn't know this guy. He doesn't know what this guy wants. He doesn't know the level.
He didn't listen to the question.
Of what his desires are. Yet he already knows, I want these people in more than you do. Fantastic way to win the vote, Donald Trump. You just challenge people and put them down.
Yeah, Jay Collins, the facial expressions are priceless. Yeah, I agree.
Lose this segment of the labor force, that it's going to be a decimator for our economy, for prices in the grocery store. The same thing that MAGA world claims to want to talk about constantly. They claim to care about. They claim to be impacted by so much is inflation in the grocery aisles. Yet this is a surefire recipe for disaster related to that item. But it doesn't matter, because what's the most important thing to them is vile racism and white supremacy.
So again, this guy's a lib. You know, he's got the story, and I'm thankful for that, right? Because I was worried. I didn't want to just show you the town hall itself, because I don't know which media outlets copyright claim or not. So I'm thankful to have this video, but I just want to illustrate, in case anybody's missing it, right? We throw around these words, liberal, right, leftist, and sometimes interchangeably. You know, you're on the left, you're a leftist, you're a liberal, you're a progressive, you're right. It's not the same thing. There's a difference between a liberal and a leftist. And liberals ignore questions of material conditions, the base of our society, how we feed ourselves, how we produce goods. The mode of production is neglected by the liberal side of the political spectrum, because our discourse has been artificially moved to the right, and leftists were considered enemies of the state, because the United States had a conflict with the Soviet Union post World War II. The two nations that fucked up the Nazis, right, went into a Cold War. And so anybody who was, talking about material conditions, if you're talking about material conditions, if you're talking about base and superstructure, if you're talking about the mode of production, you're a goddamn dirty commie, and we can't have that. So this shit, this liberal shit, replaced the left. And our nation and our people have been worse for that.
Now, I was watching TikTok yesterday, and Jamel Bowie, who's a New York Times columnist and really has an amazing TikTok account. He is not a trained or educated historian, I don't believe, but has a masterful understanding of the history of the country and the sources and the causes of problems. And this is what he had to say when faced with the similar question about this issue.
I am in a hotel room, an inn, actually, in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. That explains my surroundings. Also explains why I'm always dressed like this, whatever. Anyway, why are you more worried about mass deportation than Americans having groceries and a lower cost of living? Americans first, period. Well, first of all, I don't think you want to live in the kind of United States where there are people going house to house, rounding up people to throw into camps and deporting them. I think that's a bad United States for anyone, regardless of whether you're a citizen or not. But secondarily, mass deportation will drive up the price of groceries and lower the standard of living. If you want cheaper groceries and a higher standard of living, then deporting like a third of the agricultural workforce is not the way to do it.
And realistically speaking, we've got to eat somehow, right? What is going to happen? What is going to happen if you deport the workforce, for agricultural jobs like that? Are you going to do that work? Are you going to get down on your knees and cut the broccoli? Are you going to bend over and pick the strawberries all day? Who's going to do that? Who is going to do that?
If you don't care about human rights, if you don't care about basic decency, and you care about your pocketbook and your pocketbook alone, first I would say that's sociopathic. But if that's where you are, then deporting a bunch of people is going to make you worse off. It just is.
So look, it's not just me. It's not just idiots who run their mouth on YouTube like me in MySpace. It's actual educated people. It's people who are versed in the economy, in the mechanisms by which our pricing comes. There are market forces outside of just Donald Trump dictating what the price of an orange is. He doesn't control that. He does have an influence on that through mass deportation. If people need to pick the broccoli to get it to the grocery stores, to get it to your table, and there's no one there to do it because Americans don't want to do that job, what do you think is going to happen to the prices of the groceries? What do you think is going to happen to the farmer's bottom?
This is the thing, is that all Trump can do is complain about grocery prices because he wants to get elected. But when you ask him, what's your plan for dealing with that? He'll say something about drilling. Right? The United States right now, if you don't know, is a net exporter of energy. It's producing more energy than any other country in the fucking world. And yet he claims that the answer to our grocery prices being too high is that we need to drill, baby, drill. He's full of shit. He can't answer a question. He can't even stay on topic, right? Because it doesn't work for him. And he doesn't have an answer. Now, Kamala, for, all my criticism of her, and one of those criticisms is that she's not specific enough about her plan to deal with grocery prices, does at least talk about taking on price gouging, which will actually help the prices come down. There's a lot more to be, like her answer leaves something to be desired, but at least it's an answer. At least she's responding to the question. This guy can't do it because he doesn't have anything. He doesn't do anything except for bitch, 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 bitch. And then bullshit you, gaslight you into thinking that he's got some way of just making magic wand everything better.
Bottom lines.
Doesn't work like that.
What happened to those crops that sit there and rot, nobody buys? What's going to happen to the American economy at the direction of Donald Trump? It is self-evident. Anyway, I invite you to this conversation. I'd love to know what you think.
I'm sorry, Michael Wilbert. She's got no plan? She's got no plan? He's got no answer. He can't answer the question because he's lying to you and he's conning you. Everything he's ever touched has turned to shit. He was never a successful businessman. He was never a successful real estate mogul. He's a successful con man. You know why, Michael? Because suckers like you are born every fucking minute. There's another mark for him to lie to and exploit. And apparently he's really good at what he does.
But now there are freaking communist invading radicals.
Apparently people like you are 100% his bitch, right? And you want to know why the country's fucked up? Because shitheads like you got conned into voting for him in 2016. Really ask yourself, right? When did things go awry? When did things go awry? And I think if you're honest with yourself, you will pinpoint that time to his administration.
Below, you can also call, leave me a voicemail, 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me daily@dollemore.com. Follow me on social media. If you're there, do not sign up to do that. That's a miserable time.
Okay, anyway, we're done with that. We're done with that. So, I don't know. I thought about maybe, I do have one more piece of content I kind of want to watch. I'm not sure. We got a lot of Anna Kasparian stuff to deal with. Let's see if we can get through this really quick.
Sometimes I think the Trump campaign forgets that their candidate is Donald Trump because today Fox and Friends aired a segment of Donald Trump making a campaign stop at a barbershop in New York City. And traditionally, this would be great for any candidate to sit down and have a Q&A and maybe a non-traditional campaign setting. And the candidate would be able to talk about the issues that matter most to them and talk to voters. But for Donald Trump, those things never really happen. As we always know, whenever he opens his mouth, it is bound to backfire. And it's the reason why the campaign has been keeping him out of these types of events, keeping him from doing interviews, not allowing him to debate Kamala Harris, although I think that third one is more his fear and cowardice than anything. But you would expect someone to be able to, have a conversation with voters and act like a normal person, as long as that person isn't Donald Trump. And so today's
Look, I would respond to the question in the Twitch chat, but I'm low-key kind of sussed out by Dave Lorda's whine implying that Jewish people aren't white. Right? That's what your comment says to me. You say you're not a fan of Trump, but I don't know. Are you a fan of Slippery Nick?
event backfired incredibly quickly, not only because Donald...
Do we have griped up sweaties in my Twitch chat? Is that what we're dealing with?
...humiliated himself to the Fox audience, but because those guys in the barbershop were pretty concerned and confused about a lot of answers that Donald Trump gave. And one specific example that we will see, you can see the guy just being like, what is wrong with this dude? And kind of realizing how dumb...
He's not a businessman. He's an actor. I don't think he's even an actor. Right? Like, Ronald Reagan was an actor. Donald Trump is a... I mean, what do you call somebody that goes on a reality show? It's not exactly an actor. I would say he's in the right place at the right time when you're talking about The Apprentice, which is indeed the only successful venture he ever had. Not in actually being a businessman, not in actually making deals, but in representing himself as the archetype of the deal.
Donald Trump is, and we're going to get into all of that. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe.
All right, come on, we got to
really
speed this up. Speed this up.
Back from Washington, where you have people that don't care about New York, frankly. You know, in Washington, I don't know if you ever noticed this, you got Department of Education, Department of Education. You got half the buildings at Department of Education. I never saw. You don't need any of them. You know,
yeah, good point, Davy.
One person and a secretary to just make sure they're teaching English, okay? Give it a little English, okay? I say reading, writing, and arithmetic. No transgender, no operations. You know, they take your kid. There are some places, your boy leaves the school, comes back, a girl, okay? Without parental consent.
Not much of a reaction out of this questioner.
What is that all about? That's like, that's...
I wonder what he's thinking, right? Because, I mean, some people, even right-wingers, realize that that's not true. What he's saying is that schools are doing surgery, like gender reassignment surgery, on students, and it almost sounds like, if you listen to what he's saying, like, without just spontaneously, oh yes, this child needs to be a girl now, this child needs to be a boy now. That's obviously not true to anybody with their brain intact, right? That's bullshit.
When they talk about a threat to democracy, they're a threat. Could you imagine, without parental consent? At first, when I was told that was...
Without parental consent? They don't let your kid go to the planetarium without parental consent. What are you talking about, Trump?
Actually happening.
There's a permission slip for that.
You know, it's an exaggeration. No, it happens. It happens. There are areas where it happens. We're not going to let it happen.
So like I said, this would be an easy answer to any other candidate. Asked about how he's going to help schools in the Bronx, Donald Trump, if he wasn't Donald Trump, could say, we got to make sure we're investing more so every student has the opportunity that they just... No, but he pivots right into fear-mongering about transgender surgeries and saying that your son comes back a daughter or your daughter comes back a son and you don't even know it. And you can see the guy's face.
Oh boy,
he just,
we got
doesn't
more
react.
Trump.
Maybe he's listening, or maybe he's just concerned that this guy could possibly be the president of the United States. Again, this guy with this cognitive state, he's just so confused, so angry, so aggrieved all the time. and always making such a fool of himself because he was asked some pretty serious questions. Of course, he's unwilling to do that
All right.
in an interview.
I'm kind of interested. Is there more? Oh yeah, we have a little bit more.
Everything. He wants to do things in the environment, and he endorsed.
Oh, he's talking about RFK.
The first time a Kennedy's ever endorsed a Republican.
So, oh yeah, no, yeah. Let me rewind it. This guy's asking about food, and there is a very real phenomenon called food deserts in the United States. Certain areas, which tend to correlate with areas where minority groups live, are without sufficient grocery stores, right? Grocery store meaning a place where you can buy fruits and vegetables and healthy stuff, the stuff that's on the outside of the grocery store, right? And other areas of the United States are serviced by corner shops that have a lot of shelf-stable and prefabricated, prepackaged foods, right? Which are obviously going to be in aggregate less healthy, right? So that's a real thing. That's a real phenomenon. That's something that should be looked into and dealt with. What does this guy say?
In our urban communities that have less access to.
Here we go. So yeah. No, he's like that's a real thing.
Real issues, and his answers were always anything but real.
Sorry, we got
ridiculous, as we can see right here.
Is the plan to do about the food healthcare industry and getting the artificial.
These are the food healthcare industry.
Foods banned in our urban community.
Now, if you look up food healthcare industry, you're gonna get some conspiracy theories. Right, there's some people that take what I just explained to you, the difficulty in getting healthy food, and extrapolate that this is a way of the medical industry making more money. It seems to me like it's just like capitalism doesn't give a fuck about you, right? Capitalism is there to make money, and if having a grocery store in your neighborhood doesn't make money, they're not going to have a grocery store in your neighborhood, and you're going to be stuck going to the corner store, to get your groceries. Right, but I on one hand, I don't blame people for looking for an underlying reason, and
communities that have less access to organic whole foods.
Organic whole foods. So yeah, look, I don't think you have to eat organic to be healthy. Probably like less pesticides is better for you than most pesticides, but also a lot of people can't afford to eat, to buy organic. And I always say that if your choice is between buying conventional vegetables and buying no vegetables at all, you're probably better off with those conventional vegetables, right? But that being said, there's a real point. Like, we're not just talking about not able to get organic food. We're talking about not, he said whole foods. We're talking about not being able to get vegetables. We're talking about, not being able to get, real food rather than prepackaged shit.
So Bobby Kennedy, right? Everybody likes Bobby, and he's so big into the health food and women things, everything.
He's so big into women things. Yeah, ask Olivia Nuzzi about that.
He wants to do things in the environment, and he endorsed me. First time a Kennedy's ever endorsed a Republican. Maybe it's going to be the last, but I doubt it.
Actually, I'm sorry. He's full of shit. Like, I don't know what you mean by that, but there have definitely been Kennedys to endorse Republicans. I think there's Kennedys that run as Republicans, right?
He's so perfect. He doesn't like artificial foods, and he doesn't like pesticides and all the stuff they put on them.
So all he's got is, I got this guy Bobby Kennedy for you. Like, I don't really know about this stuff. I don't really care about this stuff. But this guy has kissed my ass. And so I'm going to bullshit you into thinking that I got that covered.
And if you listen to him for 10 minutes, he says other countries that don't do anything are healthier than us, okay? We're not that healthy, to put it mildly. So no artificial foods. We don't want artificial. We have plenty of food. The food isn't our problem. And our farmers are great. And our farmers aren't allowed to do their job. Our farmers did great. 4 years ago, they were doing just about the best they've ever done. They're not doing well at all now. We're not going to have artificial foods. We don't want artificial foods. We want healthy foods. And a lot of things are going to be going. And I'll tell you, I'm going to have Bobby Kennedy involved in it. He's a great guy. And even the way when I mentioned his name, all you guys, and you're tough cookies. You know, you wouldn't think, sometimes you'd say, maybe you wouldn't like.
What does Trump mean by tough cookies? What do you think Trump means by that?
Like a guy like Bobby, but he's a person that talks more about food and health than anything else. So I think that's cool. So
yeah, I mean, like,
we'll get it taken care of. You'll be healthier in 4 years from now than you are now, and you look very healthy to me, by the way.
All right, brother.
Thank you. Go ahead.
What do you have?
Whenever Donald Trump brings up RFK Jr. and their potential partnership, it's like when he brings up Elon Musk. It's not something that encourages me about the possibility of a Trump presidency.
All right, and one more thing. Let's take a look at Tim Walz. So yeah, there's Donald Trump's barbershop visit. I'm sorry we can't watch more of it. There might be more good stuff. I'll try to take a look at it. But we got to cover multiple things, so we got to be moving on here. We got Tim Walz dunks on Elon Musk and Trump. All right, let's see what this is about.
And I'm going to talk about his running mate. His running mate, Elon Musk.
Oh my God! Sorry, he got me. He got me. I thought he set me up to think about Vance.
Seriously.
Like the truth behind the joke, right? Though, is that Elon Musk and JD Vance are both attached to a guy named Peter Thiel, right? They're both kind of, yeah. I mean, like, I don't know. Elon Musk is bad in his own right, but there is a connection, right? And that connection is venture capital, right? As symbolized by Peter Thiel.
Seriously. Where is Senator Vance after he got asked the simplest question in the world at the debate? Did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election? And after 2 weeks, he finally said, no, he didn't. That's where he's been spending his time.
But you know that was what he was saying anyway, just not in so many words.
That's it. So,
When you ask him a question and he responds with a question, and his question is basically questioning the results of the 2020 election, you know what his answer is. He just doesn't want that clip where you ask him, did Donald Trump win the 2020 election? And he says yes. He doesn't want that clip, right? So he's hemming and he's hawing and he's answering a question with a question, but we know what he really means.
look, Elon's on that stage, jumping around, skipping like a dipshit on these things.
Wow. Wow.
Think about it. Think about that. That guy is literally the richest man in the world, spending millions of dollars to help Donald Trump buy an election.
Okay, so now Tim Walz. I love these words, Grandpa. All right. He's certified UNC status here. All right. Certified grandpa status. What I'm wondering though, Tim Walz, is let's say that Kamala and you get elected. You become president in January of 2025. Elon Musk is in charge of an absurd amount of our space program. You don't like him. You don't trust him. You called him a dipshit. What are you going to do? What are you going to do to renationalize this space program? The space program, if you don't know, used to be a project of the United States government. When you see the moon landing, or you hear JFK say we're going to be the first people to put somebody on the moon, right? That was the U.S. government. That was NASA doing it. Now we have SpaceX. What are you going to do about that? What are you going to do to take the things that should be part and province of we the people and put them back in the hands of we the people? Because right now, our space program is controlled. Many of our satellites are controlled by Elon Musk. What are you going to do about the billionaires that have taken over things that are supposed to be part of the government? What are you going to do about that? How are you going to hold him? How are you going to hold this guy accountable?
Now look, they're saying the quiet parts out loud now because Donald Trump has already promised that he would put Elon in charge of government regulations that oversee the businesses.
What about the Democrats that have put Elon in charge of important shit like the space program? That's all I want to hear from Tim Walz, right? That's what you get when you watch my stream. You're gonna get, I mean, like, obviously I think that voting against Donald Trump is one of the most base things that you could possibly do. I'm not gonna sit here and vote scold you if you're disgusted by the Biden-Harris policy on Israel, Gaza, and you can't bring yourself to vote for, you know, them. Hey, I mean, like, I understand, right? But I do advocate, you know, if especially if you live in a swing state, maybe considering weaponizing your vote to deny Donald Trump another term in office, right? I think that's a based choice that you can make. But at the same time, I don't let the Democrats off the hook on their bullshit. And handing over the space program to jackasses like Elon Musk is part of their bullshit.
That Elon runs. That's a hell of a buy. He could spend billions to make more than 10 billion on the back end. So in other words, Donald Trump, in front of the eyes of the American public, is promising corruption. That's what he's promising you.
I mean, that's true. Like, yeah. As problematic and as disappointing as the Harris-Walz ticket is, as the Biden administration has been, it's still, you know, worlds better than what you'd get from Vance and Trump.
And you know what? I don't believe he keeps many promises, but he'll keep that one. I'll guarantee you he'll keep that one. But here's the good news, Madison. Donald Trump is never going to be president. Elon Musk is never going to run anything.
Knock on wood. Okay.
So,
because those polls could not be tighter. Those polls that we're looking at are 50-50, right? Anybody that's telling you the truth about the election prognostication, and we'll take a look at polls again tomorrow, chat. We'll take a look at some polls tomorrow, but yeah, it's looking like 50-50.
and the good news is Kamala Harris is promising a new way forward and ready to deliver. Both of us grew up in middle-class families. We didn't start out with $400 million, and we're not the richest people in the world. For Christ's sakes, they said that I might be the poorest person that's ever run for vice president. Yes. Yes. Kamala actually worked at McDonald's and did that job. And we know that the economy works best when everybody has an opportunity to get ahead and thrive. And here's the beauty of it. She's laid out a plan. 100 million middle-class Americans receiving a tax cut, and up to $6,000 for new parents to get their kids off to a good start. But look, I'm not going to waste all the time I'm in. I'm going to talk about his running mate.
Okay, so we already saw. Wait, is this the same one? Is he just doing a stump speech in different states? I'm curious. It's the same. No. It's this exact same video. Anyway, Tim Walz, vice presidential candidate, and the best choice that Kamala has made so far. It's too bad that she kind of, she's just leaned to the right ever since. The last really good political instinct Kamala Harris showed was choosing Tim Walz over some of the other options. But anyway, chat, we are gonna what is the word for it? We're gonna merge the streams together. So if you're watching me on Shorts right now, I'm about to end the stream on Shorts. Make sure to hit that like button. It helps me out a lot. And if you want to stay with us, right, you can click the I've got it in the pinned tweet. I've got the link to Twitch. You can watch along on Twitch in a full screen way, or you can click the YouTube link, which I'm putting in chat right now. There you go. There's the YouTube link. Right, click either of those and you can join us. You can stay with us because we're not ending the stream. We're just ending the stream on YouTube Shorts. So if you're hung out today, thank you. Glad to have you here. And hope you liked the stream. Oh God, we didn't watch the Arnold Palmer's dick thing. Yeah, that's. I need to chat. There's so many things. There's so many things. But regardless, feel free to join us. Stay with us by clicking that link. But the short stream is going to end. So if you're leaving it there, goodbye and good luck. If you want to come with us, make sure to click that link. It's pinned. You can either click on the Twitch link or you can click on the YouTube link. But the short stream is ending now. I'll see you over on the other side.